Hello, Conference 3, The Garden. Greetings, brothers and sisters. We are going to discuss the fascinating topic of the garden. It is the highest level of heaven. A great deal of curiosity is needed to understand its structure. First, let me tell you that there is no up or down. It is like floating submerged in water or being weightless in space. I am going to talk about the work that is done and the internal structure. You living humans are accustomed to seeing everything in levels. In this world, such a concept cannot be applied. Everything is a unity. There are different areas where different activities take place, but there are no multiple levels of access. From one level, one can access another and not others. Access depends on the work being done and the permission granted. You might think there are guards controlling access, but in reality, there aren't, because the residents have enough moral strength to control themselves. They only enter when they have to perform a specific task and when the circumstances allow them to do so. Each place has its own access control based on its own energy and its communication with the other places and levels that exist in the garden. In turn, everything is controlled by the Father and his divine hierarchy. When a deceased person arrives at this place, either directly or by having passed through the lower levels, they reach a door controlled by two spiritual entities. They know who can enter and who cannot. This information comes to them from the spiritual hierarchies. Once they are allowed to pass through the door, they are received by family members. Then the instruction process for this new place begins. Normally, the deceased don't arrive here directly. They must pass through the lower levels. Therefore, they already possess some knowledge, making it much easier for them. For newcomers who haven't passed through the lower levels, it is more difficult, but because their spiritual level is so high, they learn quickly. The residents of this level usually relate to each other very easily. There are no obstacles. The Father's energy permeates the entire place. There is still a need for energy that serves as sustenance, but it's present in the environment itself, the Father's energy. Therefore, no other supplies are needed for survival. Certain utensils are necessary for daily use, such as writing implements. These take the form of a book in which one writes using a specific pen with their hand. In the writing process, thought is also used as an instrument. The pen doesn't write on its own, it only writes what the thought dictates. Even though the hand holds it, that doesn't mean the hand can move the pen. It's like automatic writing. Certain materials are also used to construct walls. There are some houses where newcomers and residents who carry out certain activities are welcomed. The Father's energy permeates the entire place, and there is so much happiness that no one wants to leave. People leave when they are ready to fulfill a mission, and then they must reincarnate. The mission is proposed by the Father, but the person always chooses it. In this place, the residents' abilities are much broader than those of the residents of the lower levels. They can easily access knowledge about what their loved ones are doing. They can observe them and interfere with their thoughts, always within certain rules. They can create subtle matter just with their thoughts, and they can travel anywhere simply by thinking about it. For this purpose, there are certain doors to communicate with the outside world. Communication is instantaneous, as is movement, although the mind-space relationship is different. If a resident wants to go to a certain place or be with a certain person, they must think of that person, approach the door, wait for the synchronicity between the door and their mind to be correct, and then communication occurs. It is as if the resident can create a parallel energy in the place where this person acts on their behalf, and sometimes they can also be moved, but that's not frequent. Normally, the first method works. In certain cases, the residents have to leave the premises to perform certain tasks, such as fighting evil spirits, which must be done in person to have greater power. Communicating with the living using transcommunication methods like the famous Ouija board you're probably already familiar with, psychophotography and EVP, all at maximum energy, cleansing certain places where there is a large amount of negative energy or evil, and fighting as a group against the armies of darkness. The general appearance of the garden is as follows. When you enter, you see an immense space filled with platforms on which you can see various objects. When you first enter, it seems very small, but as you approach each platform, it appears much larger. The relationship between space and perceived size doesn't work the same way as in your dimension in the physical world. Space here has more to do with the mind and how it perceives the energy that floods the place. Therefore, newcomers must learn to manipulate energy using their mind and thought. This is what allows them to manipulate all the subtle matter that exists in this world and to do something useful with their thoughts. As I was saying, when you arrive at this place and cross the threshold, the door closes again. You might think the door is solid, but it's not. It's all made of subtle matter, but with a very powerful energy. No one can enter or leave unless the door opens. Sometimes the door opens to allow you to leave, but it's not frequent. You have to leave through other means. When you enter, as I mentioned before, you see the platforms. On every platform, objects like trees, single-story houses, and a bright sun are repeated. The sun is the energy of the Father, and when you approach these places, everything suddenly appears much larger. It's as if the platform is moving towards you, but not the other way around. And at the same time, scattered among the platforms are the souls of the residents. The body is visible because one sees the resident's personality, so it seems as if the body is seen. But in reality, there is no body. Everything is energy. It envelops the resident, appearing as an ovoid. Because the resident's bodies are so subtle, the energy cannot be compared to that of your physical body. The thermal sensation is very different. There is neither heat nor cold. It is always at the same temperature. The only difference is that when one approaches the Father's energy, one feels an increase in that energy that could be mistaken for heat. In reality, it is not the same because this sensation of warmth brings peace, well-being, and does not produce the exhaustion that heat produces in your physical world. Moreover, it fills you with infinite happiness and completely. One might think that the garden has an infinite size. In reality, in this dimension, space does not exist as it does in your dimension. Space compresses and expands on its own, differently for each observer. The mind has much to do with the concept of space. Time moves very slowly. Compared to your dimension, it stands still. In reality, time exists, but it moves so slowly that it's imperceptible. The work performed is of several types. 1. Bureaucratic, involving the collection of information for the Father and the spiritual hierarchy. 2. Information exchange between the hierarchy and the living. 3. Dissemination of information between the residents and the spiritual hierarchy and vice versa. 4. Type obtaining information from certain books, obtaining information about what certain living beings do, and recording said information in the general book. You know it as the ascetic record, but in reality, the ascetic record is in another place. Those who are in charge of doing this task in this place access this place through a book in which information can be written and read. It is operated with the mind and has the form of a large screen of 1.50 meters. Sometimes the spiritual hierarchy requires information about a certain person or entity. Thus, correct decisions are made for the bliss of the Father and the living beings that are involved anywhere in the universe. The clothing worn here resembles your robes. It is made by evolved residents of the area. All work is done with joy. It is present everywhere. There is no discouragement or negative memories. Other tasks performed involve the maintenance of the platforms. They must maintain a certain functionality, a certain shape, a certain state of cleanliness, because over time, the platforms accumulate an amount of energy that is not what the Father desires, and changes must be made. This staff is very close to the Father to ensure they perform their tasks well. They are the busiest in the hierarchy of workers. The residents do not need to sleep. The Father's energy provides them with everything they need. We could say there is a level above the normal platforms, the platform where the Father resides. Very close below is another, very luminous platform where the spiritual hierarchy resides, the one that controls the rest of the hierarchies. These are the high command below God. There are residents with a high spiritual level who work with the angels. All the workers interact in a coordinated manner. They must know when and how to work. There is great clarity of mind. Doubt is fleeting. Some residents wish to reincarnate, presumably having accepted a divine mission. In that case, they must visit a specific location to see the person they are destined to return to, and there they will be instructed on their mission. There are many other platforms scattered throughout the garden. As one moves through the garden, more platforms appear, while others diminish in size, their apparent dimensions rapidly decreasing. The residents learn to control their thoughts, as this is their instrument for manipulating their surroundings. Those who have had near death experiences have only reached the door. They have seen their relatives telling them to return. My intention with these messages is to give you hope for the future. What is important is the soul and the energetic bodies that comprise you. With the right training, you will be able to communicate with the Father and see the true structure of the universe, but that will be a topic for another lesson. Until next time. Fantástico.